Getting the movement you need to feel better can be a challenge. Now you can keep fit while you sit with QB, the world's leading compact seated elliptical. QB gives you active sitting, letting you burn calories and keep moving in an easy and low-impact way, all while you work, read, or watch TV. QB was named a top 10 gift by Time Magazine and has been featured all over the world. It's whisper quiet while it works your abs and core, hip flexors, glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves.
QB is a lifesaver for me.
Here's your answer to your problem.
I feel young again.
Join the hundreds of thousands of people moving more with QB. Call to find out how to get your QB with free shipping and a 30-day completely risk-free trial. You'll also get this QB workout mat free. Now keep fit while you sit with QB.
To order, call 800-289-5820. That's 800-289-5820. Call now.
Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Now, for the first time since his trial started nearly 3 weeks ago, we heard from Derek Chauvin in open court today.
We've had this conversation repeatedly, correct?
Correct.
I have repeatedly advised you that this is your decision and your decision alone, right?
Correct.
I have advised you, and we have gone back and forth on the matter, would be kind of an understatement, right?
Yes, it is.
But after a lengthy meeting last night, we had some further discussion, agreed?
Correct.
And have you made a decision today whether you intend to testify or whether you intend to invoke your Fifth Amendment privilege?
I will invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege today.
Soon after, Chauvin confirmed that he would not testify. Both sides rested their cases. Closing arguments set to begin on Monday. Then the jury will start deliberating. But before they wrapped up in court today, carbon monoxide was the major issue the day after a defense witness, who's a former medical examiner, had this to say on stand.
The toxicology, the fentanyl and methamphetamine, there is exposure to a vehicle exhaust, so potentially carbon monoxide poisoning, or at least an effect from increased carbon monoxide in his bloodstream, and paraganglionoma, or the other natural disease process that he has. So all of those combined to cause Mr. Floyd's death.
Today, the prosecution got to recall a witness to respond to what Dr. Fowler said, and that witness, renowned pulmonologist Dr. Martin Tobin.
2% of carboxyhemoglobin is within the normal range. You and I have levels of carboxyhemoglobin of somewhere between 0 and 3.
And so in other words, as to the statement that his carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18%, in your view, that's not possible.
It's simply wrong.
Now, there was some drama surrounding Dr. Tobin's testimony because the judge said he'd declare a mistrial if the prosecution even mentioned tests showing that carbon monoxide levels in Floyd's blood were normal, because that would be new evidence that had not previously been introduced. Now, besides the cause of death, another major point was the use of force and whether or not Chauvin followed police procedures. Now, we heard from a parade of police officers who said what Chauvin did was totally inappropriate, but the defense had witnesses who disagreed. Take a listen to both sides, starting with the chief of police in Minneapolis.
To continue to apply that level of force to a person proned out, handcuffed behind their back, that in no way, shape, or form is anything that is by policy, is not part of our training, and it is certainly not part of our ethics or our values.
I felt that Officer Chauvin's interactions with Mr. Floyd were following his training, following current practices in policing, and were objectively reasonable.
Let's bring in our first guest to discuss. Tom Heffinger. He's an attorney in private practice in Minnesota. He's also a former assistant Hennepin County attorney and also a former federal prosecutor. Perfect person to get his perspective on what we've seen. To the layperson, Tom, the prosecution really laid out a compelling case between the video that we saw time and again, the witnesses on scene, and the experts. Now that we've heard both sides, if you were Officer Chauvin, would you be concerned?
Well, he should be. But the defense also accomplished what they wanted to do, which is to establish some doubt in some of those very same areas. I agree with you, Richard. The prosecution was compelling in three areas: people on the street, the videos, and number two, the use of force experts, and number three, the health issues. But one of the things that Chauvin and Mr. Nelson had to do is, in those areas of strength, identify some areas where there could be some doubt. Remember, they don't have to prove his innocence, but if there's reasonable doubt, that is what the defense is looking for.
Help us out. Did the prosecution screw up here today in that on the carbon monoxide issue, apparently they had tests that would, empirically refute what we had heard the day before, but there was admissibility issues since they hadn't brought them up prior. I know on cross, as we just played here, they said no. The public said no, carbon monoxide was below the 3% level without going to the specific report. Did prosecution do enough, or will they regret they didn't have their ducks in a row?
They were chastised to some degree by the judge for not having worked with the medical examiner to identify and fully disclose those carbon monoxide tests. However, the prosecution did something very well and very clever. They brought back Mr. Tobin, Professor Tobin, to talk about this issue of carbon dioxide in the blood. And his testimony essentially rebutted the testimony of the defense medical examiner. And quite frankly, because Dr. Tobin was such a compelling witness, having him be the last witness that the jury sees in this trial is probably the best thing that the prosecution could do.
We played the clip, as you heard, of Officer Chauvin confirming for the judge that he would not be testifying, he'd be invoking his fifth. But maybe I'm reading into it. It certainly seemed that him and his attorney, Mr. Nelson, had a lot of conversations about this. In the end, it would have potentially opened Pandora's box, but given the mountain of evidence and the mountain of people, including the chief of police, the top pulmonologist, et cetera, do you think it was a close call to put Chauvin on the stand for almost nothing to lose?
Well, first of all, it's his choice and his choice alone. His lawyer would have made some very clear recommendations, and Chauvin was free to take those recommendations or not. I don't know what Eric Nelson recommended, but I do know that one of the things that they started talking about from the very beginning of this trial was that lawyer and that defendant were talking about, will you testify? And I can almost guarantee you that the last thing that they talked about before they parted ways last evening was, are you sure you still want to assert your Fifth Amendment privilege? So this is a process, not a decision. It's a process that starts at the beginning of the trial and it ends the night before you have to announce that you want to take the fifth. And it requires the input from the lawyer as to how good the case is going in for the defense, as well as Mr. Chauvin's gut instincts.
Let me, speaking of gut instincts, let me ask you your gut instincts on this. Jurors are human beings. I know they've been counseled by the judge to not look at any external information or reporting on this, but when they go home, somebody's going to tell them, if they don't already, that 10 miles from their courtroom, what happened to Daunte Wright and the surrounding circumstances. How much external pressures or concerns about, depending how the verdict goes, the ramifications, do you think are realistically weighing on jurors' minds?
Well, that's why Eric Nelson asked the court to sequester all the jurors on the Chauvin case so that they couldn't hear the overwhelming volume of publicity that the Wright tragedy is getting. This is very similar to what happened early in this trial when the Minneapolis City Council publicly announced a large settlement with George Floyd's family. And that almost caused a mistrial there. In this case, the judge, I believe, is relying on the fact that he has instructed the jurors not to watch television, and he's relying on the fact that they will follow his instructions. But I certainly understand why the defense is very worried that jurors are watching that television reporting and making decisions on the Chauvin case based on, in part, on what they're seeing in regard to Mr. Wright.
Is it too late, Tom, for a plea here? And I'm trying to put myself in Nelson's shoes. And if anything, even for the layperson watching this, you can see the difference in lack of resources, by the way, in terms of what the prosecution's brought to bear, and Nelson seemingly being a one-man show. But nonetheless, there's 3 charges we talked about last time, the manslaughter charge and the 2 murder charges, second and third degree. My point is, is it basically now in the hands of the jury, or if you're Nelson, do you basically potentially try and see if you can get a deal?
It is never too late until the jury comes back with a verdict for a defendant and his lawyer and the prosecution to discuss settlement. I've seen cases where the jury is out and the defendant decides to enter a plea before they come back with a verdict. So it's not too late. It's too late after the verdict comes in, but not before that.
Would you consider that if you were Mr. Nelson right now, given what's played out in the last 3 weeks?
No, I wouldn't. I think that they have done a very good job of creating enough evidence where to support doubt. That's what it's all about. Have they given the jury enough information on which somebody who's doubtful of what they're hearing from the prosecution just says, I can't go with it? No, and at this point also, I don't know that it would have a plea agreement at this point would probably have minimal impact on whatever sentencing was imposed by the judge.
So last question, Tom. For both sides, how would you close? And as the prosecution and defense get ready for that closing, who do you think is confident that they're going to secure the verdict that they're hoping for?
Well, the entire prosecution team, I think, is very confident. And if I were doing a final argument for them, I'd be focusing as much as I could on the elements of the 3 charges that are pending against Mr. Chauvin. They're complicated charges. For example, what does depraved mind mean? That's a second-degree murder. That's the third-degree murder. The culpable negligence, that's the manslaughter. So I think they have to put a lot of time and effort into telling the jury what the charges are. From the defense side, I would be hammering away at the jury instructions on requiring the prosecution to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt, and I'd be going through a laundry list of doubts that a reasonable person should have about the prosecution case. So those are the 2 hearts of the case for the prosecution and the defense, is the elements of the charges and reasonable doubt.
Tom, thank you as always. I really appreciate the perspective.
My pleasure.
All right, folks, when we come back, I want to pivot to the other top story today, and it got lost a little bit in the news cycle, but I think it's really important. The Capitol Hill riot. Tomorrow will mark 100 days since Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, and today on the Hill, we got new details about the police response and how unprepared they were for what happened, even though it turns out there were ample warnings. We've got the very latest for you after the break.
Villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV's new 4K Ultra HD design, the Premium HD. Just plug it into your TV and start watching for free. You will instantly receive top-rated network shows, local news and weather, sporting events, and even Ultra HD 4K broadcast shows, all for free. Thanks to federal government mandate, all broadcasters are required to transmit a digital TV signal through the airwaves. The new Premium Clear TV lets you bypass cable or satellite to bring network and 4K broadcast shows directly to your television. Retract the antenna to keep it small or extend them for maximum reception.
Setup was so easy. I took my Clear TV antenna, plugged it into the back of the TV, and now I can watch my favorite broadcast channels anywhere in the house for free.
We're just off the coast here in the Gulf of Mexico receiving free network broadcast HD TV. Imagine all the free shows you'll receive at home.
Basic cable and satellite services can cost you up to $80 a month. That's $960 a year and almost $10,000 over a 10-year period. Watch TV in as many rooms as you like with no additional monthly fees. Stop spending money you don't have to spend. Call or go online now and get your premium Clear TV 4K Ultra HD antenna for only $19.95. It's backed by our 60-day money-back guarantee. Order now and you can add a second Clear TV free. Just pay separate processing and handling. That's a $40 value for only $19.95.
I can't believe I get all these channels for free. Plus 4K Ultra HD, Clear TV is for real.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
It's a day none of us will forget, but it's hard to believe the Capitol riots happened 99 days ago. Still, to this day, if you think you know why the riot happened, who knew what and when, you're kidding yourself. The riot, it remains a mystery with a capital M, even as bits of the story drip out in painstaking detail. And for that, let's bring in Andrew Whitman again. And Andrew, we got a window in terms of all the unknowns that still exist, but hardly the answer.
We actually have a few windows that have cracked open a little bit, Rich, but part of the difficulty here is how many different entities are investigating some aspect of the riot. Capitol and D.C. Police, the Justice Department, prosecutors, the House, the Senate, lawyers in every criminal case, and inspectors general. Today, the Capitol Police Inspector General, Michael Bolton, testified before a House committee, bringing lots of new details with him. That 3 days before the riot, their intelligence unit warned that a mix of Trump supporters, white nationalists, and violent militia groups would target Congress and could pose a danger to law enforcement and civilians. But that in the unit's operational plan made on the 5th, the day before the riot, leaders asserted there was no specific threat related to Congress. Also, that police shields had not been stored properly and shattered upon impact, and that other police shields had been locked inside a bus and could not be accessed on the 6th, and that the unit's best weapons to repel a mob weren't even considered for use during the riot.
It was decided that these heavier munitions, you say specifically the sting balls, 40 millimeter, were not to be utilized based on the information that we received that they could potentially cause life-altering injury and or death.
Were you able to identify who gave that order?
Yes, ma'am. The word we have, it was a assistant deputy chief.
Meanwhile, the Washington Post and Carnegie Mellon University have done a reconstruction of the riot. Among their findings, at the height of the riot, around 2:25 p.m., there were 9,400 rioters at the Capitol or more, compared to 157 police officers. The police were outnumbered by nearly 60 to 1. That in a 78-minute window, a D.C. police commander called for backup at least 17 times. Often he got no response. And that of those 9,400 plus rioters, only about 400 arrests have been made so far. That's about 4%. But because each arrest comes with the release of evidence and arguments, we also learn a little bit more about the overall insurrection with each new case. Filings in the case of an alleged Oath Keepers member have the violent group keeping a stash of weapons in a hotel in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside of D.C. and its strict gun laws, but ready to access and bring to the Capitol if needed. And prosecutors have text and other messages to help make that case. Another case has the FBI in Norfolk, Virginia, the day before the riot, finding this message being shared among rioters. Quote, "Stop calling this a march or rally or a protest. Go there ready for war. We get our president or we die. Nothing else will achieve this goal." Of course, one rioter did die. She was shot and killed by Capitol Police as she tried to storm the Speaker's chamber. This week, prosecutors announcing that officer will not face criminal charges connected to her death. But even with all that, there is still so much more that 99 days later, we still do not know. Like why the National Guard force was not beefed up before the 6th and who made that decision. We have no idea about President Trump's role. Did he delay the Guard before the 6th? Did he delay it on the 6th? Why did Mike Pence have to order the Guard in when Trump never did? And what exactly was Trump doing as the riot progressed? We still don't know who the pipe bomber was. All we know is that that person's bombs did not go off in front of the DNC or RNC. And we still don't know if any Capitol insiders helped lay the groundwork for what happened.
Those members of Congress who had groups coming through the Capitol that I saw on January 5th, a reconnaissance for the next day, those members of Congress that incited this violent crowd.
And Rich, as you know, there should be internal security video within the Capitol that should give some answers to all of that, but there's no one entity running the show right now, so it's not like there's any one place to turn to get information or even to have open hearings about all this.
You know, we're nearing, as you know, the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And the one thing, and maybe it's convenient memory, Andrew, but the 9/11 Commission that Hamilton and Kane co-chaired, there was bipartisan support to get to the bottom about what happened on, I would say, the innocence of America, but so much more than the tragedy that had happened, but the idea of our security was shaken. Well, the idea of our security was shaken on the 6th. You and I sat at this table, and we looked at each other on numerous times, be like, where's the cavalry? My God. They're going into our Capitol and no one's stopping them. What's going on here? We know that there was, pathetically unprepared, but we don't know why. The part that we should mention, Andrew, is the idea of having a January 6th commission. Republicans are standing in the way because they want to make this a partisan affair. They want to say, well, let's talk about the Black Lives Matter, protests too that were dangerous and ugly in other cities across America. That has nothing to do with the breach on our national security in attempting to kill our own vice president, among others. So there's a political dynamic to this that is really, to me, so distasteful.
Well, I think one of the problems and one of the reasons why this is being handled differently from 9/11 is that there is one group, one political group that is involved and may have some of its members come out, convicted or otherwise condemned for their actions or for not doing more to stop it or for enabling it or encouraging it. Because there is a partisan nature to the events of what happened on the 6th. Nobody in America thought for a second that the attackers on 9/11 were Democrats or Republicans and it was clearly an outside attack. This is an inside attack. And so I think there is some protection of the flank and protection of the membership from the GOP. They don't want, in my opinion, an objective review of what happened on the 6th. I think because they probably know, like we do, where it'll end up.
I agree with you, but think about what you just said,
I know.
which I believe is accurate. They do not want an objective view because, God forbid, they might find some of their members were participatory.
It's the ultimate putting party over country.
It is. Now, you mentioned about the stockpile that was sitting there in Alexandria. Andrew, my God, how this could have been so much worse. The pipe bombs that didn't go off, the fact that the only gunshot that went off was an officer who's now been exonerated for it because of the nature of the riot. But imagine, with the assault weapons we have in this country, that some of these people had in their possession, including a truck that was pulled over at one point, how this could have metastasized in terms of not just a tragedy, but a massacre.
Yeah, and I can't help but think one of the Capitol Police officers who was injured in the attack and talked in the days afterwards, he said, he made a decision not to reach for his gun during the riot because he knew he was terribly outnumbered. And then he also said, and because we had been pulling guns off these people all day long. So I think there were a lot of guns in that crowd. Thank goodness none of them went off in the attack on the Capitol, but yeah, this could have been significantly worse than it was. Significantly.
It was bad enough.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. When we come back, we're going to head to New York, in New York City specifically. The mayoral race there is heating up, but many people concerned that the field of candidates on the left aren't right for the job and won't be up for the challenges. After the break, an expert on New York politics weighs in.
IRS, open up.
The IRS is the most feared agency in the country and has the power to seize assets, garnish wages, and even put you in jail for back taxes and unfiled tax returns. Don't be a victim. Call Kick IRS right now and let us kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all. Our powerful team of tax experts will fight hard for you and will not stop until we've resolved your tax problems on your terms. And if you qualify, we may even reduce or eliminate your tax debt altogether. No more sleepless nights wondering when the IRS is going to come after you. Take control of your tax problems today and make the phone call. We have an A rating with the Better Business Bureau, and we offer a 100% written guarantee, so there's nothing to lose and everything to gain. The consultation is free and the phone call is free. So pick up the phone right now and kick those IRS problems out of your life once and for all.
Call 1-800-719-3527 to get the tax help you need today. Again, that's 1-800-719-3527 or go to kickirstv.com.
Clean up your lawn and garden the smart way with a DR Chipper Shredder. Drop lighter materials into the shredder and the DR will pulverize it into a fine mulch you can use to enrich your soil. Reduce leaves, garden cuttings, sticks and twigs, even big branches, to a fraction of their original volume. The chipper cuts branches up to 5 inches thick into attractive wood chips that are great for landscaping. A DR Chipper Shredder is a complete yard and garden tool that turns your trash into treasure and leaves your property looking great. There's a full line of DR Chippers and Chipper Shredders, including towable and 3-point hitch models.
Go online to drchipper.com to request your free product catalog. All DR Chipper models are on sale and free shipping is in effect. Plus, with our easy financing plan, you can get your DR now and make low monthly payments. Hurry, this offer won't last, so go online today. That's drchipper.com.
Help. When you fall and can't get help, you will lie on the floor for hours or days in constant, terrible anguish, which often results in a tragic outcome. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, whether at home,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
in the bathroom,
I've fallen in the shower.
or on the go.
Help! I'm in the park and I can't get up.
And batteries never need charging. Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-215-6582. That's 1-800-215-6582. Call now. 1-800-215-6582.
The elections are coming. There are 5 questions to restore New York City. Question 1, how will you get New Yorkers back to work? Question 2, how will you make our streets safer? Question 3, how will you address the city's increasing budget deficit? Question 4, how will you stop the exodus of residents from New York City? And question 5, how will you bring back tourism?
You know, I think for many that ad hits the nail on the head, identifying some of the major issues that will face the next mayor of New York City. Democratic primary, it's June 22nd, and whoever wins that will almost assuredly move into City Hall. There is not a ton of polling out there, but the latest numbers we have show that Andrew Yang, yeah, you heard me right, Andrew Yang is in a lead, but with only 16%. Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams, the only other candidate polling in double digits. Rounding out the field, former de Blasio aide Maya Wiley, City Comptroller Scott Stringer, and former Citigroup executive Raymond McGuire. There are a couple other candidates, but they're getting hash marks. Now, this is also the first time people will use ranked choice voting, where they're going to pick their top 5 candidates, not just their first choice. That could prove to be a factor. My next guest, he knows New York politics as well as anybody. Mike Morey, managing director of the communications and strategy firm SKD Knickerbocker. And Mike, is it lost on anyone in the field because they're playing to obviously a progressive electorate that tends to turn out in the primaries, that there's one audience, but then there's the broader audience of New York, which, unlike 4 years ago, you or I could have done the job, given that, you know, the city was running on largely autopilot. There are huge challenges that lie ahead, including, obviously, the business community is a part of it. It seems that the messages for June are going to be very different than the messages to the broader New York.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. The ad you ran, I think it's financed by Jim Dole and MSG. And as much as there's a lot of anecdotal discussion about the degree to which is someone going to be able to run New York City or deal with these 5 major issues, the fact of the matter is this is a Democratic primary in which really the issues that are most important to the most progressive of the progressive are what's going to rule the day, which is why a candidate like Ray McGuire, though flush with resources, and granted the polling is still a bit limited, seems to be at the back of the pack. And you have really just pure name ID running the picture right now. Yang, who has national name ID, and Eric Adams, who represents a massive part of New York City.
Andrew Yang, I know it's early. I know there hasn't been a lot of attention paid to this for understandable reasons, but do you look at him right now the way there's a layout as leader in the clubhouse? Or would you be shocked, especially as we said with ranked voting and all the rest, that an outsider as much as Andrew Yang is could actually become mayor?
Look, you always want to be at the top of the heap, and he certainly is right now. And being at the top of the heap, he's taking the most arrows. And so I'm not going to suggest that Andrew Yang is in an enviable position right now, purely based on name identification, and at a point in the campaign where the heaviest of the advertising hasn't happened yet. Will all shift shortly. And when the big dollars come in and the big advertising starts to go, let's remember that Bill de Blasio was in 4th place just 30 days before the Democratic primary in 2013. One breakthrough ad essentially brought him quickly to the top. Had no name ID, really, even though he had won citywide, and it was 30 days out, and the entire race was upended. So would I want to be Andrew Yang right now? Sure. But Andrew Yang is also taking most of the arrows, and the heavy spotlight is now on him. Everything from the way in which he is staffing his campaign to foibles in discussions or showing up to protests. All the ink is built on his back, both because he's the front runner and because every candidate knows they need to pull him down a few notches.
You know, I'm not going to debate, because you've forgotten more than I know in terms of, you know, where at least the core primary electorate is New York City, but I think everybody cares that nobody wants to go back to the 70s for New York City. So from the safety aspect and having a clean city, wouldn't that resonate better than in most years, that nobody knows what New York's going to really look like, you know, when the curtain's lifted after COVID? Isn't that a non-losing message to say that I'm going to keep you safe?
That's not a losing message, but it's not where in the scope of priorities that people have for what they want in an elected official. The safety message does not overtake a message about the need to structurally reform the public safety system, the police, etc. So Those are wide, broad messages for a wider electorate. These candidates are playing in a very narrow electorate right now, and that is not what's going to be at the top of most folks in New York City's decision-making sort of calculation.
Mike, finally, let's move from the city to Albany. We've all seen the opus pieces on the the 40 years of Cuomo and whether people saw this coming, not, whatever the case may be. What are you hearing from those close? That betting against Andrew would be a mistake here, given his survival instincts, that he thinks he's going to make it through this? Or as these investigations start to produce more, and now there's, we saw more of the reporting right now with the hotline and the tips that are coming, there's no way he's going to make it through this, or if he does, he's not going to be governor again.
Look, I don't think there were a lot of people who thought when the first cascade of stories happened that he would be where he is right now, and he is. And part of that is because there is a process that unfolds, and he's decided that come hell or high water, he's not going to be resigning, that the electorate put him in the position he is in. And for the most part, the polling is borne out that the majority of New Yorkers do not think he should resign. The question of what will be the outcome of the Attorney General's investigation and how that might change the calculus, your guess is as good as mine. But certainly the notion that he was going to step down due to pressure from state legislators, members of the federal delegation, or anyone else for that matter, has shown not to be the case. I think the greater likelihood here is that he may consider not running for re-election, but there has been not much yet that has given any indication that he's willing to willingly step down from office.
Mike, always good talking to you. I appreciate it.
Likewise, Richard. Good to see you.
You too. All right, folks, we're going to leave New York when we come back, and we're going to go to Washington, or more specifically, to the media covering Washington. It's the segment we call It So Right, They're Wrong. Tucker Carlson edition straight ahead. After the break, we're going to show you why there are new calls for Fox to can Tucker as he's getting accused of now anti-Semitism, among other things. And by the way, what he's been saying has the full support of his network management.
Shake your legs, shake your abs, shake your butt, shake up your entire body to a slim, firm, and sexy new you with PowerFit Elite, the breakthrough multi-directional vibration platform that helps engage all your muscles from the moment you step on it. PowerFit uses multi-directional vibration to create muscle confusion and rapidly contract and relax your muscles to help you get fit and stay fit.
It's intense. You really feel your whole body working.
You could be watching TV, but you do feel the workout.
It works you out where you don't feel like you're working out. It's actually a lot of fun.
Each traditional exercise that you do on PowerFit Elite can help sculpt, transform, and redefine your body from head to toe. The secret is the multi-directional vibration technology that causes muscle confusion and forces them to contract and counter-challenge you. Your muscles work hard so you can stabilize and maintain your balance. There are 3 standing positions: walking, jogging, and then running. Plus, there are 3 different program levels for workouts to choose from, so you can really customize your workout. PowerFit Elite can help improve your energy, burn calories, tone your body, define your abs, work your arms, strengthen your legs, boost your buttocks, and so much more. And for an even more intense workout, add resistance bands for bicep curls, forward lateral raises, and crisscross pulls. It's time to join the new fitness revolution that's shaking up the world. Call or go online now and you can try PowerFit Elite in your home for 30 days for only $14.95. But wait, order right now and we'll upgrade you to the deluxe set that includes the complete workout guide, the power bands, and the handy remote control. That's an over $80 value free. Try PowerFit Elite in your home for 30 days. And if it's not the best workout system you've used, just return it for a refund of your trial price. But hold everything, we'll also add our healthy eating plan to help you achieve your best possible results free. Try PowerFit Elite in your home for 30 days for only $14.95 and experience the power of extreme vibration. Order.
This is important news for people who have taken Zantac or its generic ranitidine and then suffered from cancer. Zantac and generic ranitidine have been linked to cancers. Zantac and ranitidine contain NDMA, a known cancer-causing agent. If you or a loved one took Zantac or generic ranitidine and were then diagnosed with bladder cancer, kidney cancer, or any of these cancers, call Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Operators are standing by.
It was one of the most disgusting chapters of the Trump era, and that's saying something here. And it was a stark reminder as to how tenuous a point we are in American history. But as millions of Americans were sickened by what they saw and heard at Charlottesville, others, they've latched on to the message you just heard and done so with deadly consequences. But the worst of the bunch may be the ones who are now pitching an intellectual defense to that hatred, profiting from it in the process in prime time. Yes, I'm referring to that guy, Tucker Carlson. For more on the ugly Tucker argument with an even uglier history, let's bring back Andrew.
And Rich, this is some truly awful stuff from Tucker. We're going to play it just to knock it down, but what you're about to hear is, it's just plain race hate dressed up to make it go down easier.
Now, I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it, that's true. I mean, everyone wants to make a racial issue out of it. Ooh, the white replacement theory. No.
He says his replacement theory is exactly what's happening. That's true. You know who would agree with Tucker Carlson? These guys. We know that. They were chanting it in the streets. Or these guys, especially the one with the hateful t-shirt, but he's a fan of replacement theory. Problem is, in addition to being awful and hateful, that theory has proven deadly. Gunmen who did mass shootings in Germany, in New Zealand, and in El Paso all cited replacement theory as a reason why they did what they did. And it's not a coincidence that this theory has grown like a weed at the exact time that domestic acts of terror in the U.S. spiked to a level not seen in a quarter century, and it's not a both sides thing. Since 2015, right-wing extremists have been involved in 267 plots or attacks, leading to 91 fatalities. Attacks and plots ascribed to far-left views, just 66 incidents, leading to 19 deaths. So Tucker tried to couch the theory as a voting rights issue.
This is a voting rights question. I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that? The power that I have as an American guaranteed at birth is one man, one vote, and they're diluting it.
This is a chestnut. Diluting the vote is an argument that has popped up again and again throughout American history. It came up as millions emigrated through Ellis Island. It came up again during the women's suffrage movement when they got the vote, and yet again during the civil rights protests of the 50s and 60s. More on that in just a moment. The theory and its legacy prompting the Anti-Defamation League to call on Fox to fire Carlson. But the top man at Fox, Lachlan Murdoch, is backing Tucker, which in turn is giving license to other Fox News hosts like Laura Ingraham, room to make other insulting, stupid, and racist claims like this one. Carlson is helping to introduce replacement theory to a new generation of American haters. Let's hope that history remembers him along all those who espoused it in the past. On July 2, 1964, President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act into law, a landmark piece of legislation. 2 days later, Alabama governor and fervent segregationist George Wallace delivered a speech entitled "The Civil Rights Movement, Fraud, Sham, and Hoax." And part of what Wallace said may sound familiar to today's Fox News viewers. Quote, "I believe the American people have been pushed around long enough and that they, like you and I, are fed up with the continuing trend toward a socialist state. We must not be misled by left-wing incompetent news media," he continued, "that day after day feeds us a diet of fantasy telling us we are bigots, racist, and hate mongers to oppose the destruction of the Constitution and our nation." Tucker Carlson's replacement theory isn't new. It's as old as hate, just dressing up George Wallace to look like a modern TV host. Rich?
You know, I just wonder, forget about the people who were marching with the tiki torches or were there on January 6th, storming the Capitol. To a casual Fox News viewer who's just watching that segment, he made it sound rational that his rights and his equal vote or piece in place in the American process was being taken away. I'm glad you showed the women's suffrage movement, the civil rights. The exact same argument has been spouted for a couple hundred years here. And everybody, including people from my family tree. Remember, Irish need not apply, Italians were dogs, whatever. God knows, remember what happened to the Holocaust survivors when they tried to come to this country and all the rest? And then it more conveniently was used, certainly, for people of color after they were enslaved to have any civil rights in this country or women having a right to vote. It was the same trope. I think you did a great job of saying it, but for anyone out there to say, well, this time it's different, it's not different at all. It's a different person, but it's the same argument.
It is. The only difference is that Tucker is doing it both to expand the point, but then also he provides cover by making that, by selling it as logical and rational and understandable to the people who are watching Fox. That gives cover to the people who rioted and stormed the Capitol. It gives cover to the politicians who engaged in that rhetoric that led them to it. It gives cover to Trump and Trump supporters. It gives cover to Fox News. It just provides, that's the only difference here, is that it's not just being used to try to not expand the vote. It's being used to provide cover to people who have already acted in terrible ways.
And by mainstreaming this, some of the people who have come out after his segment saying he's absolutely right, I have a feeling he's not happy with, because the white nationalist groups, these, the Oath Keepers and et cetera, they're on record as saying, go Tucker.
He speaks for us.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's who's getting the message.
And it made its way into Congress. I don't remember who it was, but somebody this week, a Republican, one of the guys who spoke on the 6th, was talking about replacement theory in one of the congressional hearings. That's how it metastasizes.
To me, the part of this story that gets, you included it, but Fox News has a choice. There was a point where Glenn Beck became too much for them. He was rating well, but advertisers didn't want any part of him. And the network said, too far. When Bill O'Reilly had all of his scandals, there was one too many and he had to go. And obviously, Ailes, I can go. The point of this is, Lachlan Murdoch had a choice. He can either say, my primetime guy, my biggest anchor, my biggest draw, is now going into the George Wallace territory. Am I going to give him cover or not? So far, he's given every indication, even if his brother says no, that he's on board for the ride. And it's about the almighty buck, or worse, he believes it. But nonetheless, look who's gotten pushed. Those people on election night who rightfully called the states. But he is safe and secure and with the blessing of the network suits.
Let's see if advertisers revolt.
That's the right next thing to look out for. Andrew, thank you. When we come back, we're going to have the very latest from the aforementioned Capitol, including Republicans continuing going after big businesses for opposing voting restrictions, the feud between Nancy Pelosi and AOC, and much more.
Has your AC busted, computer crashed, appliance broken? Then you need ARW, American Residential Warranty.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
Home appliance repairs and replacement can cause stress and cost you over $3,000 per year. But starting at less than $1 a day, ARW has home warranty plans that cover household appliances, systems, and electronics. Parts and labor included.
When I needed ARW, they were there. My oven actually took a dive in the middle of making a big dinner for family and friends, picked up the phone, called ARW, they repaired it, dinner saved, that easy.
My air conditioning broke on a Sunday. It was so hot. I called ARW and they came out and fixed it right away.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, even pools and spas, and so much more. All you have to do is call or go to getahomeplan.com. Plus, ARW ARW's partnered with Asurion to offer protection for all your new and used household electronics for just one low price.
I dropped my laptop and ARW replaced it with a brand new one, and all I paid was a small service fee.
All plans are fully customizable and come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now and get a home security system valued at $1,250 free with any plan. And you can trust ARW to be there when you need it. Just call ARW and a licensed technician will be dispatched to your home. All covered repairs are guaranteed.
My refrigerator broke, and not only did ARW repair it fast, they even sent me a reimbursement check for all the food that went bad.
So come on, relax. Stop worrying about unexpected breakdowns and costly repairs. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
Call 1-800-253-1237. Again, that's 1-800-253-1237 or log on to getahomeplan.com today.
Mary and Shirley both need oxygen. Shirley lost her freedom the day she went on oxygen, but Mary has the ultra-compact Inogen 1 G4 oxygen concentrator from Inogen. It's the smallest and lightest model we've ever made, so she'll always have the oxygen she needs anytime, anywhere. The sooner you call, the sooner you can reclaim the freedom and independence you deserve. Call now for your 30-day risk-free trial.
Call 800-683-1390. That's 800-683-1390.
Welcome back. On this program, we talk a lot about the split in the Republican Party, thanks obviously to the last 4 years and Donald Trump still tearing the party apart from down in Mar-a-Lago. But Democrats aren't exactly singing Kumbaya themselves. First of all, the progressive wing of the party is now considering expanding the Supreme Court and also reparations for African Americans. The moderates, plus the majority of the country, do not have an appetite for either of those. Then you have the battle between the two women on your screen, Speaker Nancy Pelosi and AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York. Pelosi, the veteran, who you can argue gets things done. AOC, the newcomer, who wants to shake things up and push a very progressive agenda that Pelosi worries will turn off voters. And I think this quote from senior congressional Democrat to Politico does a really good job of explaining how the speaker feels. Quote, Nancy doesn't have much patience for people who don't know what they don't know. Let's bring in our guest to discuss, ABC News Deputy Political Director Avery Harper. Avery, let's start off first on the Republican side of the Hill. I spoke to the organizer who put together both the CEOs and a lot of the larger corporations that voiced more than displeasure about the voting restrictions in Georgia and possibly beyond. McConnell basically said, hey, keep your nose out of politics. From what I've gathered, those CEOs have not been scared back into quiet. In fact, more have come on, and now they're talking about whether it's to close their checkbooks or even to possibly either, if not moving corporations, having some tangible penalty to the states that'll put this in. How worried are Republicans? They may have started a fight here that they can't win.
Well, look, I think you've seen that Mitch McConnell's warning that these corporations, should stay out of politics. It hasn't rung hollow. We've seen a group of GOP lawmakers put forth some legislation against the MLB for taking the All-Star game out of Atlanta following Georgia's passage of that restrictive voting bill. So you might see in different state houses them take similar actions in terms of the tax breaks that a lot of these corporations enjoy. But I don't think that we're going to see corporations back out on their pledge to stand up to these legislatures that are putting forth these restrictive voting bills. They are organizing, like you said. We've seen that there was a meeting of more than 100 corporate leaders and business leaders to figure out how that they can use their power collectively to ensure that the access to the voting, the ballot box is equitable and fair. So we'll continue to see corporate involvement in this issue.
All right, let's go to the Democratic side of the aisle. It's no shock that AOC and Nancy Pelosi were never going to be BFFs here, but apparently more than just below the surface, AOC's been put in her place apparently by the speaker. This could cut both ways. There's not a huge margin that Democrats enjoy, and if the squad or the progressive wing pushes back on what the speaker wants, she may not have enough votes, but also no Democrat wants to be known as to scuttle signature legislation of the president. How tenuous is this in terms of the progressive wing and Pelosi and leadership?
Well, look, the margin, that they have in terms of the majority in the House is slim, and any lawmaker has the power to come out in opposition to legislation and could present a real issue for party leadership, and so. The Democratic caucus is going to have to get their stuff together. They are going to have to be moving in lockstep going forward as long as the majority remains the slim in order to get legislation passed. So I think we're going to end up seeing, as we have in the past, both sides of the party kind of come together. This is the thing. The Democrats, they're a large tent. And so we're always going to have this progressive wing and this more moderate wing of the party. It's a matter of them working together in order to get legislation done.
A couple examples of that. There's already been new legislation possibly packing the Supreme Court. Speaker Pelosi was asked about it and said, no, I want to deal with the commission that the president set up. Now we have a reparations bill going. Neither of these have any chance to become law. But I'm curious, was leadership on board with even bringing these things to a vote?
Well, look, I don't know if we're going to see this come to the vote, especially, with Nancy Pelosi saying that she does not support expanding the Supreme Court from 9 to 13 justices. The president has been wary of that. The White House has declined to comment twice today about the, potential expansion of the Supreme Court. But look, a lot of this stuff will, even if it comes to a vote in the House, it's not going to pass the Senate, especially as long as the filibuster remains. A 60 vote, you're not going to get that on expanding the Supreme Court. The votes just are not there. And so, yes, a lot of progressive legislation comes out of the House, but we're not necessarily going to see it turn into law at the end of the day.
Hey, I appreciate a few minutes today, Avery. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up.
Remember when taking a hot bath was the best part of your day? And for some, it can be hard and even not safe just getting in. Older bathtubs can be as high as 20 inches. Let's face the facts. As we get older, our knees and backs start to hurt us. Getting in and out of an old bathtub can be difficult and even dangerous. Jacuzzi Bath Remodel, a name you know and trust, has the perfect solution for you. We call it the tub to shower conversion. We'll remove your old bathtub and the need to step over a dangerously high threshold, replacing it with the safety and luxury of a low-profile walk-in shower. Advanced materials mean no more mold or mildew from an old bathroom, and all this in about a day. As a special bonus to you, you'll get a special extra safety feature for free. So please call now.
This is important news for people who took certain drugs for HIV and then suffered serious injury to their kidneys or bones. If you or a loved one took Truvada, Viriad, Atroplus, Stribild, or Complera and were then diagnosed with kidney disease, kidney failure, bone fractures, bone density loss, or softening of the bones, call Davis & Crump right now to see if you're eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Our first consultation is free, and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call Davis & Crump right now. Operators are standing by.
After an auto accident, insurance companies will try to outsmart you and pay as little as possible. At Vocate Legal, our attorneys know exactly how big insurance thinks and how to outsmart them. That's all we do, day in and day out. Call us today or visit vocate.com for a free consultation. We'll help you connect to a qualified attorney in under 10 minutes. Get a free consultation and we'll start working for you right away. Better yet, you don't pay unless you win your case. Our accomplished attorneys have the experience and knowledge to handle your case strategically and will fight to get your medical expenses paid, your car repaired, and the maximum compensation. Make the right move and partner with one of our Vocate legal attorneys at no upfront cost to you. Call us today or visit vocate.com for a free consultation.
Vocate Legal, fight smarter.
So that's going to do it for us tonight here on RFL. Thank you as always for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. We hope to see you on Richard French Live.